The first quarter of the NHL season is complete, and it was full of surprises. I'm joined at the desk by our two NHL experts, Mason Stalph and Berman, to break down what's going on the ice thus far. The Edmonton Oilers season has been disappearing at best, but there is a lot of season left. So what do they have to do to turn this season around?
Okay, so the Oilers are sort of an interesting situation. But
that's one word to use.
But, I mean, they have the best player in the league, Connor McDavid, and they have Leon Draisaitl, who's a great complimentary player.
Well, he was a great compliment.
Right, and that's part of the problem. So for me, Edmonton has to go back in time and not trade away a lot of those players that they picked as first-round picks for pennies on the dollar.
It just doesn't make any sense. Like, when you try and rebuild a program and you know that you're going to eventually hit the salary cap, you don't hit the salary cap and then immediately trade all those players away before you made your run.
I said they were disappearing. I meant disappointing, but evidently they're disappearing too.
Well,
their
yes.
chances are disappearing.
Their chances are gone.
But here's the thing. It's not just the salary cap issue. It's the fact that they used the salary cap on the wrong players. They spent a ton of money on 30-plus-year-old Milan Lucic, who doesn't score anymore. They spent a lot of money on Chris Russell, who is an overrated defenseman. They're spending money in the wrong places, and they could have kept...
You put all your eggs in one basket. One basket, and that's the Connor McDavid basket.
They overpaid Draisaitl, and they sort of had to because he was their second-best center. But then you can't have Ryan Nugent-Hopkins.
And then you put him on the wing, and now he's back to center because he was so bad on the wing.
Guys, we're going to move on to a better team. Tampa Bay seems to have found a lightning in a bottle, it seems, and they are sitting atop the Eastern Conference. So... are we going to set to see another deep playoff for the Lightning, or is something else going to happen?
We're going to see a deep playoff run for the Lightning, assuming two things happen. One, they stay healthy, because if Stamkos or another one of their best players gets hurt or their goaltender gets hurt, then they're in trouble. And two, they don't get a terrible first-round playoff matchup, which we've seen in the past. If they get drawn against the Pittsburgh Penguins or another Metropolitan Division team, they could be looking at a first-round exit, regardless of how good they are, because when you get to the NHL playoffs, anything can happen.
And the other thing to me is just now we've seen that Stamkos line has cooled off. That line of Kucherov, Stamkos, and Vladislav Nemestikov, they were really, really hot to start the season, and especially Nemestikov, who has never scored more than about 30 points in a season on average, now is pretty much there.
And they're not going to get challenged really until they hit the playoffs because they're not in the Metropolitan Division. Whereas the Metropolitan is going to get top-line competition day in, day out. This Lightning team is really going to remain untested for the most part until they hit the playoffs. And if they get a really tough opponent that's ready for that, they're going to be in trouble.
See, to me, it's not they're going to be untested. Every team they're still going to see a lot of Metropolitan opponents. It's the fact that they haven't done that well against the Metropolitan Division that, to me, is the biggest question. Right now, they've been doing well, but as you said, they really don't get tested. They have a pretty good strength of schedule because they're in that weak Atlantic
and they're relying on 7 goals a game.
We're going to go to Las Vegas and talk about the Golden Knights, this expansion team that has been playing quite well, and they seem to have a very balanced attack with their NHL players. Are the Golden Knights going to have a run at the Stanley Cup?
Not at all. I give this a 0% chance of happening, and honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they crashed out before the playoffs.
Oh, I wouldn't either. I won't give them a 0 because I want to look like the brilliant genius when they do somehow make a playoff run. I'm going to still say they have...
It's not going to happen, so you'll
look
stupid.
1%, it's about a 1% chance, but I want to look like at least a slight genius in saying that they have a shot, and this is because assuming they get to the playoffs, and I agree with you, Jenny, I don't even think they're going to make the playoffs. I think they're going to crash out long before.
But how are you looking like a genius right now if you don't think they're going to make
because
the playoffs?
I'm not giving them a 0% chance. Because if I give them a 0% chance and they do, then I look like a fool. I want to look like I had at least some hope, and that's because if they
they have no hope.
They do have hope.
Here's the thing. They have players. They're riding this insane wave of luck right now, and a lot of that comes from the hype of playing for a new team. But at some point, that's going to go away. They're playing a junior-level goaltender.
There's no guarantee that they're ever going to get off this high. They might get off until next year.
They have players going 10% above their career shooting percentage.
They have no goaltender.
That
That's the
doesn't
problem.
happen.
Listen, thank you both so much for filling us in on what's going on the ice. Up next, Thomas will be in the lounge with our college football experts to break down this past weekend and what this means for the future.